Why does South Africa have such limited load shedding? You might think I'm mad for saying this. I mean, we've been told that we're at stage 8 this week, which means Eskom's load shedding 8 gigawatts. Well, Eskom is at stage 45 even before load shedding, because Eskom told us in the 1990s we'd have 73 gigawatts by now. So if we're at stage 45 plus 6, which is stage 51, or plus 8, stage 53, then how can I be saying, well, we have such limited load shedding? Well, last year, 5 billion rand of private electricity infrastructure was installed in South Africa. And my opinion is that this year it's going to be 15 billion, and next year it's going to be 30 or 40 billion. And the reason for this is because people have finally realized that they need to take responsibility for themselves. Now, in 1999, I visited Dar es Salaam. And back then, I saw that everybody already had backup generators for electricity, diesel or petrol in those days, and still today. And also they had water backup systems, so that during load shedding, which was anything between 4 and 10 hours a day, every day, there was backup so everybody could continue with their lives. And that applied to governments and private people. Everybody relied on themselves or their communities or microgrids to make electricity. And so take us forward 24 years to 2023, and there's a massive amount of private generation in South Africa. So when you go to shopping centers, they've got generators. The generator could be a coal generator, it could be a gas generator, it could be a diesel generator, it could be a petrol generator, it could be a solar generator, it could be battery backup, it could be all kinds of things. It could be biodigesters, could be sewage mining, could be everything. The reason I brought coal in there is because, for example, South African breweries originally used coal to make steam. And then Eskom came to them in the 1970s when there was an abundance of electricity and convinced them to switch from coal to electricity. And I'm sure that SAB are really hurtful now that they have to go back to coal or to other alternatives, probably photovoltaic panels plus all the other things that we have today that we didn't have back then. I mean, in 1960, a watt of PV photovoltaic cost $60. Now it costs a few cents. The price has come down 99.97%. The price of grid-type PV has come down 90% in 14 years. The price of grid-type PV, including batteries, battery backup so that you can have electricity during load shedding, has come down by 92.5%, or even 95% in some cases, in 14 years. And we're at grid parity, including batteries now. We were at grid parity, including without batteries, in 2015. But 2023 has come, and we're now at grid parity, including batteries, and already now in March or February 2023. And come July, when the price goes up by 20%, minimum 20%, we're going to see that we're at grid parity, better than grid parity, because a homeowner in the city of Cape Town are paying R4.56 to import electricity, and they'll be able to make their own electricity, including batteries, for about R3.50 a kilowatt hour. So why do I say there's limited load shedding in South Africa? It's because of billions of rands of private infrastructure investment. A company like Exxaro at their mine at Grootegeluk, next to Matimba and Kusile and Medupi, power stations, they're installing 70 megawatts of PV. A company like Ford, they're already making a third of their electricity from PV panels. And they've said that within 3 years, they're going to be making 100% of their electricity. Now, I know that poor people and the government will say that if rich people, and the way I define a rich person in South Africa is someone who pays tax, bearing in mind that there are 21 million people who don't pay tax and get grants. But every rich person in South Africa, everybody that's paying tax, whether they're middle class or rich, who takes themselves off the grid, that's a wonderful thing. A really wonderful thing. I prefer that they didn't put in battery-only inverters, but that they put in grid-tie inverters, because I want them to export to the grid. But there's no sense in exporting to the grid when you buy at R3.30 and you can only sell at R1. What's the point? Might as well just have a battery inverter, save 15,000 Rand on your installation, and also save 10,000 Rand on the registration costs, plus the smart inverter, maybe 15,000 Rand. So you can save maybe 40 to 50,000 Rand by putting in a battery-only inverter, not exporting to the grid, and putting in more PV panels and more batteries. It's not what I want. It's what I said to Ian Nielsen in 2013, that within 10 years, people will go off grid and will defect from the grid. And I'm right, and it's happening. So what do we know? We know that private people are installing massive amounts of infrastructure. We know that diesel generator installations are at an all-time high. We know that people are now installing, because they have PV generators and they have systems to make themselves into an island, so that they don't export to the grid while there's load shedding. They can install PV panels behind the the island, and therefore they can reduce the generated load at least during the day. And then because some of them have time of use tariffs, they can also fill batteries during the day or at night and use them at peak time. And they can do peak shaving, reducing their peak demand, saving on peak requirement. But the point is that if every single homeowner and every single SMME and everybody with big buildings went off the grid and potentially could export to the grid, then Eskom would have the electricity they need for the 10 or 15 million people who work for the really big companies in South Africa that need electricity. So while someone says, oh, well, David and people like him can go off grid, well, the fact of the matter is that if I go off grid, Eskom can sell the 500 kilowatt hours that they would have sold to me to the likes of Exaro or companies that own shopping centers or smelters or the metal industry or companies like Astral that do feed and grow chickens or KFC or whoever. All those companies that employ 15 million people in South Africa. Whereas a company like me doesn't employ anybody. Well, my wife, obviously, she's obviously employed, and we have an administrative assistant. So, and we have subcontractors. But as I said in the beginning, the reason that South Africa has such limited load shedding is because of the massive amount of private infrastructure investment. And the same thing happened during the so-called drought in 2017 to 2019, which wasn't a drought, it was a water management crisis. But the Western Cape, the whole of the Western Cape, installed about 12 billion rand of water infrastructure in 10 years before that drought. Sounds like a lot, but private people, in my estimation from what the calculations I did, installed 10 billion rand of private water infrastructure in that period of 2 years, 2016, 2017, 2018, approximately then. And that is why Cape Town didn't run out of water. And now Jordan Hill-Lewis is saying that Cape Town will install 300 million litres of additional water capacity by 2030, but Cape Town needs 600 million litres a day today and needs another 600 million litres a day by 2030. So he wants to install 300 megalitres by 2030, but by then we're going to need 1,200 megalitres, and we need 600 megalitres today. And there are ways of doing it, and there have been many people who've come up with solutions. For example, desalination in False Bay, pumping that desalinated water into the Steenbras system, and therefore it can come into the Cape Town system quite easily. People have said that we can't do desalination in Table Bay because it's so polluted, but the waterfront is desalinating 2 million litres of water a day from so-called polluted water. And you must remember that South Africa has got the most sophisticated and capable desalination technology because of mining, acid mine drainage, cleaning out mining water, and so on. We're able to do that. We're able to do it at the house or city scale. So why are we not running out of water? Why are we okay? Why is load shedding so limited? Why are we not like Zimbabwe or like Tanzania or like other countries in Africa or other parts of the world even? America's got an energy crisis. Europe's got an energy crisis. It's not just applying to Africa. Why? Because of the massive amount of private installations of water, electricity, and all kinds of other systems being installed. So, should you be worried? Well, of course you should be worried, but should you be not be able to do something about it? This morning's Cape Times has got a big headline which says powerless. Should you be powerless? No. So what should you do? Well, if you're able, if you look at the new car sales in South Africa over a 2-year period, that amount of money is enough to almost take the whole homeowner sector off the grid completely. So everybody who's about to buy a new car in South Africa over the next 2 years, defer your car purchase. And don't worry, the car industry can sell their cars other places in the world. Okay, so don't worry about them. But worry about yourself. Don't buy the car. Delay the car purchase. Build your own electricity system and water backup system. Number 1. Number 2, you're thinking of going on a cruise? Don't go on the cruise. Okay, buy your backup system. You think of buying a new cell phone for 10,000 Rand? Put that 10,000 Rand into the beginnings of your own system. Put in an inverter and batteries that allow you to expand to have PV panels later on. Find a way to change your spending so that you can get to a point of not having an electricity cost and not having a water cost. Because you know the electricity cost is going up at 20%. And my house valuation just went up 25%. And I know the cents in the Rand will also go up. And therefore, my rates is probably going to go up 30% when Sitio Caton puts up the prices later this year. Okay, and I need to find that 30% somewhere. And the way for me to find it is to stop buying electricity and water from the city of Cape Town. So, You know, everybody thinks they're being so clever in government, but they're being really stupid, because actually South Africa should have 300 gigawatts and we have 30 gigawatts. And if Eskom and the cities allowed that massive amount of electricity to flow over their grid, they could make 10 times as much money and 10 times as much profit as they make now, just by allowing private people to buy and sell electricity across the grid. They don't have to do anything else. They don't need to build anything, blah, blah, blah. By the way, we do need some new gas power stations. Gas is currently better than coal. There's no ash. And gas is cleaner to burn. I'm sorry to the anti-gas people, and I was anti-gas until I looked at the big picture a few years ago and I said, we need gas. Do we need fracking? No. Does fracking work in America? Yes. Why does fracking work in America and not in South Africa? It's because the rock in South Africa is such that you can inject a liquid, as they've tried to do in South Africa. You inject a liquid into the rock structure, formation, sandstone, whatever it is, in South Africa, and 6 months to a year later, you find it 150 kilometers away, the same injected substance. So the problem in South Africa with fracking is that the rock is such that the water will leach to outside the fracking area. That's a problem. But we need fracked gas? No. Why? Because we have more than the amount of gas in Kuwait in the Kudu and Venus gas fields off the northwest coast of South Africa, and there are distillates there as well, including oil and other things. So it's possible that South Africa could become oil independent and not have to import oil. Although we have Sasol, which is producing a third of South Africa's petrol. Sasol will continue at least for 10, 20 years while they clean up their act. And in the meantime, we won't have to import oil from Saudi Arabia and other countries, because we have our own oil off the west coast. We have our own gas. It doesn't take long to bring gas from those gas fields to Saldanha Bay, and then to Unkelach, and then to Cape Town. Within a year to 2 years, we could have 5 gigawatts of gas power stations in the Western Cape, so we can then close down Kuburg on schedule and have twice as much baseload electricity as we have. And we can have a massive expansion of embedded generation in the Western Cape, starting now. Jordan Hill Lewis says that they want to have 500 megawatts within the next 3 years of PV panels. Well, they should be allowing 100 megawatts a week. If they allow 100, the City of Cape Town's responsibility during each stage of load shedding, which is 1 gigawatt countrywide, the City of Cape Town's responsibility is 100 megawatts of that. If we install 100 megawatts a week, within 8 weeks, before winter this year, we will not have to have load shedding. When everybody else is having load shedding, the City of Cape Town does not have to have load shedding. How does that happen? Like I said, the City of Cape Town must deregulate, must allow people to install without having to register, without having to have smart meters, without all that rubbish. Okay? But obviously with COCs, certificates of compliance, we must make sure that the electrical cabling is correct, that the right size cabling is used. There are more than enough competent people that know how to do that. Any competent electrician knows what size cable to use and can be quickly taught about voltage drop. They already know about voltage drop from an AC point of view, and they can apply that voltage drop analysis and capability to DC engines. So guess what? It's going to be the 1st of March in a few days. If we install 100 megawatts a week in March and April and May, the City of Cape Town will not experience load shedding in winter. Okay, we won't be entirely safe, okay, but we won't experience load shedding. We need to have about 5 gigawatts to be completely off-grid in the Western Cape. So we need to continue with 100 megawatts a week. How much is that? 100 megawatts a week. How many weeks on there? 50. Okay, 52. Let's just say 50. You need to have a holiday for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Okay, so you have 50 times 100. 100 times 5 is 500, times 10 is 5,000. We have our 5 gigawatts. 100 megawatts, 500 megawatts, 5,000 megawatts, 5 gigawatts. We can have it in 1 year in photovoltaic panels. Okay, you think I'm being crazy? Well, Vietnam installed 9 gigawatts in 1 year of rooftop PV 2 years ago. If they can do it, we can do it. So what does it mean? It means that the panels are available. Okay, let's do it. And then we still need to have that additional Unkelach being made into a baseload power station running gas from the Namibia / Northwest Cape gas fields by the end of this year. That's entirely possible. And another 5 gigawatts of gas baseload power stations in the Western Cape by the end of next year. And when that happens, the Western Cape will be a net exporter of electricity. Not only that, but the city of Cape Town will be able to grow. We'll be able to desalinate water. As I said already, we today need 600 million litres already. There's already massive problems with water and sewage in the city of Cape Town, especially where I live in Milnerton. We have E. coli levels 2,000 times higher than the world standard. It's meant to be 1,000. We have 2 million. Why is that? It's partly because of lack of infrastructure maintenance, but it's also because of lack of water to run the sewage system. You need 85 litres of water per day, per person, to run the sewage system. And we still have water rationing in Cape Town because we still have incredibly high water prices, which is disincentivizing people from using water. And so people aren't flushing their toilets after each time they go. They're doing the, if it's yellow, let it mellow, and if it's brown, flush it down. But some people even wait after 2 or 3 browns before they flush the toilet. So there's way too little water in the sewage system, which is causing cholera and other diseases like typhus, typhoid, etc. are going to happen if we do not get our sewage system working. And then we can do sewage mining. We can take the methane out of the sewage, we can burn it at peak time and at peaking power stations. And we already have the Athlone power station, which is rated for 180 megawatts, currently sitting idle. That can be installed within 3 months. We can have a peaking power station running there, which reduces 2 stages of load shedding in the city of Cape Town. So we have every answer we need. We have people that are competent in the South African environment who can make this happen. But the ANC and the DA and the EFF and all the other big political parties, the historical political parties, want to own everything and they want to be responsible for everything, and they want to be the elites who tell their beneficiaries what to do. It's almost like South Africa is a trust. And the trustees are telling the beneficiaries, who are you and me, oh, we'll give you some electricity for 2 hours a day and be happy with that. Bullshit. I want electricity 24 hours a day, and I want more electricity than I buy now. I want to be able to add more air conditioners. I want to be able to water my garden, which is currently a sandpit since the drought. I now spend more per kiloliter on water from 1 litre than I used to spend when I bought 40 kilolitres in summer 5 years ago. And because of the rainwater collection system I have in my house, I don't buy water for 7 months. I should be able to bank that water in the dam and buy it back in summer at a cheaper rate, but I can't do that. So we're not incentivized to bank water and buy it back in winter. We're not incentivized to put in bigger solar systems, because the less electricity used from the city of Cape Town, the higher amount you pay. Until you use 5 kilowatt hours in a month and you pay about, I think it's 50 Rand a kilowatt hour instead of 2 Rand a kilowatt hour. So if you use 1,000 kilowatt hours, you pay 2 Rand or 3 Rand a kilowatt hour. But if you use 5 kilowatt hours, which allows other people to buy that kilowatt hours cheaper price, if you buy those kilowatt hours, you're paying 50, 60, 70 Rand a kilowatt hour. And if you use no kilowatt hours, you're paying infinite amounts, because you're going to pay 230 Rand for your service fee without buying 1 kilowatt hour. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go to the main break and switch it off and stop paying for electricity. And the city will lose that service fee. And they say, but there's infrastructure. And you say, I'm not using the infrastructure. And they say, but what about water? And say, I'm not using your water. And they say, what about the roads? You say, well, I repair my own potholes outside my house. People are going to go back to city-states where they look after themselves. They build their own roads to their neighbors. And they decide whether to toll them or not. Usually they don't toll them because they want their neighbors to come and shop in their cities. So I was on the Ward Forum in 2009 in Milnerton area, and I saw that if I fixed a pothole myself, it would cost me 500 Rand, but if I got the government to do it, it would cost 50,000 Rand. Why? Because we'd spend 3 months in meetings. There'd be 500 pages of notes. We'd have to get 3 quotes. Blah, 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 blah. We'd have people who are private people sitting there who are millionaires, potentially worth 10,000 Rand an hour, sitting there providing advice. We don't need their advice to fill potholes. Anybody can fill a pothole. It's cheaper for you to fill the pothole outside your house than it is to ask the government to do it, even though you pay tax. People are already taking responsibility for education. People are taking responsibility for their own health. Luckily, we live in Africa, where we have a lot of old-fashioned doctors who understand how pills are made, because pills are made from natural substances that exist in forests. And we have enough people that know how to do that. In fact, when the Europeans arrived here in the 16th century, in those days, the doctors were cutting off limbs. If you hurt your limb, they cut off your limb. But they came to Africa and they discovered that local doctors were rubbing ointments from forest trees into the wound, and the arm healed. And 500 years ago, our doctors in Africa were more advanced than the doctors in Europe and America. And I would hazard to say that the doctors in Africa are still more advanced, because they understand nature and they understand what's available. They understand how to use it, but they're prevented from using it because of everybody thinking that you can just take a little white pill and your pain will go away. I'm not saying that doctors aren't important. Of course, doctors are important. If you have a heart attack, you need to have a doctor who can fix the heart attack. If you break your arm, you need to have a doctor who can repair your arm. But of course, we have ancient doctors who could repair arms and fix broken bones, even before we had modern doctors. We need to mix it up. We need to mix up the ability to reduce pain, although we've had opiates for 1 million years, so that's not new. We're just putting it in a little pill. So that reduced pain, and now it's in a pill. So it's like, people, you can take spider web and you can use it as a painkiller. Be careful not to eat the spider. So, there's all that kind of stuff that you have that's naturally available. But we have limited load shedding, we have limited water shedding, and we aren't running out of food because of the massive amount of private infrastructure being installed, because people can't rely on the government. The government will continue to do what they do. Good luck to them. And they will eventually be responsible for the massive debt that they've incurred. They're incurring it on our behalf, but the IMF, the World Bank, the World Economic Forum, the international financiers, JP Morgan, etc., are going to come to the government ministers who signed for those sureties on those loans, and they're going to come and say, we're taking your Dubai mansion. We're taking your Bishop's Court mansion. We're taking your Constantia mansion. We're taking your house in Geneva. Sorry, it's ours. Your family's got Porsches and Ferraris. We're taking them. So you think that you're okay, ministers, because you've signed contracts for electricity and water and sewage and all kinds of other things, roads, with massive amounts of debt? And you think you're okay because you've done it on my behalf? Well, actually, you've done it on your behalf. Read the small print. Be careful. Look at the small print, see what it says, because you might be having a problem. And regardless of whether you have a problem with humans or not, you've signed an oath. You called a minister because you took an oath to God. And when you take an oath to God, one day when you die, God has to say, are you going to heaven or are you going to the other place? And if you signed the oath to God, and you said, I'm going to be responsible for communal money, I'm going to be responsible for citizen money, then you're going to go to the other place. So be careful. And I'm not saying be careful of David Lipschitz. What the fuck can I do to you? Fuck all. I can do nothing to you. What I can do is I can help you by installing my own PV system and my own water system, so you can supply electricity and water to poorer people and companies employing millions of people. And you should be phoning me and saying, thank you, David. You're a wonderful guy. Thanks for doing that. And I wish more people would do it. You should be saying that to me, instead of billing me more because I'm helping you with your electricity and water and other crises and health crises. So you know what we need to do. We need to do it now. We are doing it. 5 billion rand of private infrastructure was installed last year. Okay. As I said before, I think it's going to be 15 billion this year, and I think it's going to be 30 billion next year, and I think it's going to double every year. So that by 2030, people won't need to buy electricity from Eskom. Eskom will be supplying their baseload clients, which is the smelters, the steel industry, the railways, and those kinds of people, because everybody else will be making their own electricity. And the reason that Eskom can build those big power stations is because of offtake agreements with big users. And those big users will continue to buy electricity from Eskom for the next 30, 40, 50 years, whilst the rest of us look after ourselves. And there's going to be some kind of period where we do it alone, but we're going to start building community, and there'll be a new Eskom, because in 1915, when Eskom Electricity Supply Commission started, there were 15 people supplying electricity, reverse feeding the grid, and then in 1923, Eskom was created, where they said we're going to build big power stations and save lots of money. Now we've got to the point where Eskom are still building big power stations, but they're building them so big that they can't make them work. And we need something in between. Are you ready? Are you powerless? No, you're not powerless. You have choice. If you live in Kailicha or Guguletu or Manenberg or Mitchell's Plain and you want to solve your electricity crisis, you can do it. You just have to talk to your neighbors. Find 100 neighbors. Find 1,000 neighbors. Find 10,000 neighbors. Build a power station. You have the capability. You want the money? The money is available. What's the problem? The technology is available. What's the problem? The problem is that you're not working with your neighbors. And you're looking for solutions from people who've got their own solar systems. Don't do that. Make your own electricity. And then sell it to your neighbors. So we have the Kailicha power station, the Manenberg power station, the Mitchell's Plain power station, the Guguletu power station, the Nyanga power station, all supplying their own electricity, but remember, their neighbors use much more electricity. And then you can have the gasification systems. You do sewage mining and you provide electricity at peak time. And you think you can't do it, but you have a massive amount of power. There are 1 million people living there. That's 100 million rand a month if you invest 100 rand a month each. And you find a way to work together and don't take the money from each other. And if you have 100 million rand a month, you can install 10 billion rand of hardware. When you install 10 billion rand of hardware and you make the money back within 6 months, in a cash flow point of view, you can keep installing 1 billion rand a year of more hardware. And you can make the Western Cape great because you take responsibility in your areas to make South Africa great. And you have people from your areas, your engineers, who scientists, who financial experts. Welcome them back. Welcome them home. Say to them, please come back to our area. You come from Manenberg. You've got a degree. You're a lawyer. You're a doctor. You're a dentist. You're an engineer. You're a scientist. You're a financial expert. You're a call center expert. You're a manager. Whatever you are, come back to Manenberg and help us build the Manenberg Power Station. Want help? I'm available to help you. Why? Because I want a clean environment. Why do I do what I do? Because I want a clean environment. I want a clean internal environment. I want to be healthy, my body. I want it to be healthy. And I want a clean external environment because if my external environment is clean, I breathe clean air. I drink clean water. I eat organic, clean food. And I think clean thoughts. And therefore, my body's clean, my body's healthy. I don't get cancer. I don't get diabetes. I don't get COVID. I'm healthy. I've got an immune system. Why did it happen? Because I live in a healthy environment. How did the healthy environment happen? Because of the Manenberg power station, because of the Kailicha power station, because of the Nyanga power station, because of the Guguletu power station. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. And let's get people like Old Mutual to build the Old Mutual power station in Pinelands. And get people like Sanlam to build the Sanlam power station in Belleville. And let's get people like ShopRite to build the ShopRite power station in Kuils River. Not just in ShopRite, but the whole of Kuils River, the ShopRite power station. And let's get people like Astral to build the Paarl power station. Not just on their factory, but the whole of Paarl. They have the capability. And there's more than enough others that can work together to build the Paarl power station. And let's make the Scarborough power station, the Milnerton power station. Let's have Century City, with all of their money, build the Century City and surrounding power station. And we can desalinate water at the same time. And we can bring down our electricity cost by 30% within 2 years. And we can bring down our water cost by 70% within 3 years. And we can have unlimited electricity and unlimited water. And we can achieve the goals of the National Planning Commission strategy of 2010, which says another 10 million jobs by 2030. But now we've had 5 million job losses. We need 15 million jobs by 2030. We can do it. And at the same time as that, we can get rid of Eskom debt. We can get rid of the national debt. We can bring the rand to parity with the dollar so that a 40,000 rand Apple laptop costs 2,000 rand. So that we become the capital of the world, not only the most beautiful place in the world, but the healthiest place to live, where everybody wants to come and live. And we build environments that allow people to live in harmony with nature, in harmony with each other. We have the capability, we have the knowledge, we have the power. We are not powerless. We can make it happen, and we can do it now, this instant. Just change your buying habits, change your mindset, decide that electricity and water and food and health and the environment are the most important things, which means you're going to put off the purchase of the cell phone, you're going to put off the purchase of the car, you're going to put off the purchase of something, the holiday, you're going to put off the purchase of those things because those other things are much more important. Make the change. Let's make it happen. We can do it today, now. Thank you.